Welcome. I'm Jaded Nerd, and I am doing a new series on my channel called Glass House Sundays. Up next, my target is the GOP, the Republican Party, and Paul Ryan. I pretty much wanted to discuss something that kind of came up over the weekend and has been an emerging story, and it is something that has happened in response to Donald Trump. Just to get you all up to speed very quickly, Donald Trump is one of the nominees for the Republican side for president, and Ted Cruz is the other. Marco Rubio recently dropped out, having lost in his home state of Florida in one of the previous primaries we previously had. Right now, it's a two-headed race. On the Republican side, you've got Donald J. Trump, and you have Ted Cruz. And right now, Donald Trump does have a lead with delegates, and it looks like he could potentially win the nomination despite a lot of controversy, a lot of incited violence, and just a lot of just turmoil and disarray within the Republican Party as a whole. When I talk about glass houses, this series would just talk about hypocrisy or pettiness that's being exhibited or exercised by an event, an issue, or a person. And I'd like to present the GOP in this sense. There was an interview recently, I think either today or yesterday, and essentially they're saying that they choose the nominee for president at the convention, not the American people, not the voters, not the voters. So this appears and it comes off to the natural average Joe guy like me, people down the street, just anybody. It comes off like you don't like what's happening in your party. You waited too long to form a counter against the rise of Donald Trump and just the attitude and the sentiment that is being associated with his campaign. So you don't like the results. You waited too long to mount an offensive. So you're going to say that basically the voters and the process, the primaries and the caucuses, they're pointless. They're useless. So what's the point? If the people make a voice, if they make their voice heard, and even if it's a voice that shudders many of us to our core, then that voice needs to be heard. The process needs to be exercised. It needs to be honored. So I find hypocrisy there. One of the things that I kind of wanted to present as I talk about that is Paul Ryan. Now, we all know the scandal, the sex club scandal, the selfies, and everything that I equate to a moral felony in terms of his marriage and just his oath to be a public servant and to just be a model for people as he represented them at a public level. So I'm equating what he did, his actions, to a moral felony. He was disgraced. He had to end his bid for Senate. However, he's the Speaker of the House right now. And there is speculation and there are grumblings that they would want to actually nominate him or choose him to represent in the case that, let's say, Trump had more delegates, or let's say we get to the convention, but that there's still not a dead leader with a normal or who doesn't have the required number of delegates, and it could still be deadlocked. So they would want to just choose someone that they feel would have the best chance of winning in this national election and furthering the agenda that the GOP has. Here's another instance of hypocrisy. Another instance where we have glass houses, people throwing stones against the constituents and the population when they say people who get arrested, people that commit felonies, they're not allowed to vote, and many times they're disqualified from a job instantly disqualified, or even if they don't disclose it the first time around, as soon as it becomes knowledgeable to the employer, they're gone. We have a situation where we had a representative who committed moral felony just by violating the ethical portion of his job. Shamed and disgraced to a point, but yet he still is allowed to perform and he's still allowed to have the opportunities. He's the Speaker of the House, potentially a Republican presidential nominee. I find the hypocrisy in that because We elect people, we have these processes, these caucuses, there's great passion, there's great involvement, there is high sentiment on Democratic, Republican sides, whether you're conservative, liberal, whether you're a Trump supporter, whether you were feeling the burn, you're with Hillary. People feel passionately about this. And we elect people to represent and act on our behalf, what we want them to champion our causes. And you have a situation where someone violated an ethical portion of his job, and you want to put him as a representative to potentially be head of state, to make decisions with a moral compass. And I just find that ironic and a high level of hypocrisy from a party that has been attacking Hillary Clinton, attacking Bernie Sanders, has religiously attacked President Barack Obama and his administration about their economic policies, uh, foreign policy, really about the economic policies and how there needs to be a move back to conservatism and smaller government and responsible spending. But we can look at situations where the Democrats made mistakes. You can look at Vermont. I understand Bernie Sanders is speaking a lot about revolution. I understand that he has some positive things and he's really presenting something to people. But let's not forget the economic status of Vermont right now. I want to talk about on the Republican side. They're always talking about small government. They're always talking about responsible spending, fiscal responsibility. Hey, I'm down for that. But you can look at places like Kansas and Louisiana. Now, during these debates, these two states weren't being brought up. They weren't being asked to defend the economic policy that they put into place where they offered tax cuts to the wealthiest, portions of the population and made cuts to entitlements and cuts to Medicaid and cuts to education and spending. Yet the jobs and the revenue that they said would be created by offering these tax cuts never came to fruition. The jobs were never created. The same population of people who were dependent upon these programs that you cut away from them, you did not provide a way for them to get out of their situation. So they're the same people, which you end up creating debt, a deficit. Louisiana went from a $1 billion surplus to a deficit. Yet we don't hear about this because it's always about the Democrats spend money and the Republicans don't. No, I think that as you become more sophisticated and educated, you can see the nuances and understand that, hey, bad policies are bad policies and good policies are good policies. So those are just a couple of things that I want to just throw out there. Again, another instance where I can throw a stone is a glass house. It would shatter because you're presenting and you're championing a sense of our policies are what's going to make America great. Our policies are what is going to fix the problem. And that's not the case. The GOP blocked a lot of initiatives. They blocked a lot of things that the Obama administration wanted to enact and wanted to get wanted to get done and wanted to get, across and get done off their agenda. And they were not cooperative. And all the State of the Union addresses and all these campaigns leading up to those Senate races, those House races, representative races, they always talk about reaching across the aisle. And just as a normal guy, normal average Joe guy, I rarely see that. To me, the version of reaching across the aisle is you say what you think it is, and then they agree and give in, and then there's just no resistance. It's all acquiesce on one side. They just do what you say, and I just don't see the working and reaching across the aisle. Your constituents don't. We don't, and we feel it. So those are just a couple of things. So basically, looking at the GOP, looking at the fact that even though they project to have a better economic model, we have instances where Kansas and Louisiana offer examples where it can create deficits. It does not create jobs. It does offer the tax cuts and the tax breaks. It looks out for a portion of the population, but as we have seen, it doesn't cover all for those who need it the most, and it doesn't provide a way for people to generate some type of method or something to generate a better course for them to get out of their slump if they happen to be in one. So that's pretty much what I have. I just want to present something too before I close this out, and I would welcome you to reply. And if you have a different opinion, feel free to share it. But my call out for the GOP, my call out for Paul Ryan, my call out for their opposition to many of the initiatives that the Obama administration had, and calling out, the aversion to try to work and reach across the aisle, come to the middle more. These are the arguments that the GOP would cite would be, it's for the American people. We're doing this for the American people. We're doing this for the economy. We're doing this for America. And I found it ironic because you stall and you put your constituents in a position where they hurt more. You take surpluses and you reverse them to deficits. You create the lethargy, the lethargic nature that we, the average Joe, attributes Capitol Hill to be. And how does that protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution? Because ultimately, that's the end game. The end game is for you to have a nominee on one side, have a nominee on the other side. We have our general election and we elect someone. And they protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution. And right now, I don't see any of that happening. So that's what I got. That was episode 1. Glass houses on Sunday. Tell me what you think. If you want to reply, thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe. Please share the video. Get a dialogue going. If you have an idea for something that may happen to current events or something that you feel is worthy of being called out for being hypocrisy and pettiness, let me know. jadenerd.wordpress.com. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.